The door burst open with a violent slam, and Ngozi froze, the tray of jollof rice trembling in her hands. Her eyes widened as she saw her husband, Chike, half-dressed, entangled with another woman on their marriage bed, their bedsheets still warm with betrayal. "What would you do if you walked in on this?" Her voice cracked in a whisper only she could hear. "Hit like if you've ever been betrayed, and comment below where you're watching from." The woman, barely in her 20s, gasped and scrambled for her bra, while Chike staggered to his feet, fumbling with his trousers. "Ngozi, it's not what it looks like," he blurted, sweat beading on his forehead. "Not what it looks like." Ngozi's voice rose, trembling with rage and heartbreak. "You brought her into my house, our home, Chike." The girl bolted past her, clutching her purse, leaving behind the scent of cheap perfume and shame. Ngozi dropped the tray, the rice splattering across the floor like the pieces of her broken heart. "You disgust me," she whispered. "After everything I've done for you." Chike's face hardened. "Don't start this drama, Ngozi. You've changed. You're too busy taking care of that old woman in the village. My house feels like a prison." Ngozi's breath caught. "You mean my mother, Chike? The woman who fed you when you had nothing?" He turned away, pulling on his shirt. "She's not my responsibility. You treat her like a queen while I sleep alone. I'm tired of it." Ngozi's tears burned. "So, you think adultery will fix that?" But Chike didn't answer. He stormed out, leaving the front door open as if daring her to follow. Later that night, Ngozi sat alone in the quiet of their Lekki apartment, the city lights glimmering through the window. She thought of her aging mother, Mama Ezin, who still lived in their village house in Enugu, the one she and Chike had promised to renovate but never did. Her mother's health had been fading, yet she always told Ngozi not to worry. "I'm fine, my daughter," Mama would say over the phone, her voice soft but weary. "Just remember, what's hidden in the dark will one day come to light." Ngozi didn't know then how prophetic those words were. Days passed. Chike didn't come home. Rumors began swirling, whispers that he'd moved in with the young woman, Amora, who worked at his construction company. The same company Ngozi helped him start years ago by selling her late father's farmland. When he finally returned a week later, his tone was cold and distant. "Ngozi, let's talk like adults. I want a divorce." Ngozi stared at him, stunned. "You're serious?" "I've already spoken to my lawyer," he said, avoiding her eyes. "You'll get your share. Just sign the papers." Her hands shook. "After all we've built together, you want to throw me away for a child? You think she'll love you when your money runs out?" Chike sneered. "At least she doesn't nag me about sending money to some old woman in a mud house." Ngozi felt the words cut deep. Her mother, the woman who raised her alone after her father's death, was her pride. To hear her insulted was unforgivable. She slapped him. The sound echoed. Chike stepped back, his eyes dark. "You'll regret that." "I already regret you," she hissed. That night, Ngozi called her brother, Obina, who still lived near their mother in the village. "Obi," she said through tears, "Mama's all alone there. I can't keep sending her money while I'm fighting this man. Please check on her." "I will, sister," he promised. "But she's been asking for you. She said she's been having bad dreams." Ngozi's heart sank. "Tell her I'll come soon." But soon never came. Over the following weeks, Chike froze her bank accounts, claiming the business belonged solely to him. He even changed the locks on the office. Ngozi's life began to unravel, her friends withdrew, and her world shrank into pain and betrayal. One afternoon, she received a call that shattered her. "Madam," a stranger's voice said over the phone, "your mother collapsed in the village. She's in the hospital." Ngozi dropped the phone, her knees buckling. She rushed to the village that same night, only to find her mother lying unconscious on a rickety hospital bed, an oxygen mask strapped to her fragile face. "Why didn't I come sooner?" she whispered, holding her mother's cold hand. Mama Ezen stirred weakly, her lips trembling. "My daughter, they left me, but God never will." Ngozi wept. "Mama, please don't talk like that. I'm here now." But her mother's eyes dimmed, and her breathing grew shallow. The monitor beeped once, then went silent. Ngozi screamed. Outside, the night wind carried her cry through the mango trees, a sound of loss, betrayal, and guilt. The next morning, Chai called, not to console her, but to gloat. "I heard your mother died," he said flatly. "Maybe now you can focus on yourself instead of living for others." Ngozi didn't answer. Her silence chilled him. Because in that silence, something had awakened, something dark, deliberate, and dangerous. Her revenge had just begun. Cliffhanger. Ngozi lifts her mother's old diary, her tears falling onto its faded pages, where a shocking secret about Chike's past waits to be uncovered. Rain fell softly over Enugu that morning, turning the red earth into thick mud. Mourners drifted in and out of the compound, whispering condolences as they left plates of untouched food on the table. The scent of wet soil mixed with the smoke from the firewood kitchen, the smell of morning. Ngozi sat by her mother's bedside, staring at the open diary. The pages were yellowed, written in her mother's neat, careful handwriting. The first few entries were tender, memories of Ngozi's childhood, her father's death, the struggles of raising 2 children alone. But then, one entry made Ngozi's breath catch. April 3, 1999. "I fear Chike's father has betrayed us. He promised to help build the house, but instead, he took the land papers. I trusted him like a brother." Ngozi froze. Chike's father. Her trembling fingers turned another page. He swore no one would find out what he did. But one day, the truth will return to his children. Ngozi's eyes widened. Could this be true? Could the man who raised her husband, the same man who disrespected her family, have stolen from them decades ago? She shut the diary and pressed it to her chest. Her mother's last words echoed in her mind. "They left me, but God never will." As the rain eased, her brother Obinna entered the room quietly, wiping his eyes. "Sis," he said softly, "the villagers have finished digging Mama's grave." Ngozi nodded. Her voice was small. "She deserved better than this." "She did," he replied. "But what can we do? We are all struggling." Ngozi turned to him, her face fierce. "No, Obi. We're not going to let her rest without justice." Obinna frowned. "Justice? Against who?" "Chike," she said, her voice trembling with anger. "And his family. Mama wrote that his father cheated us, took our land. That same land I sold to start Chike's business. The betrayal didn't start with him. It started long ago." Obinna shook his head. "Ngozi, you're in pain. Maybe it's not the same man." "It's him," she cut in. "I can feel it." That evening, after the burial, the compound grew silent except for the croaking of frogs. Ngozi sat alone under the mango tree, her mother's photo beside her. The moonlight cast a silver glow over the grave. She whispered, "Mama, I promise, I'll find out everything. I'll make them pay." Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Amoka, her old friend in Lagos. "Ngozi, are you still alive? I just saw Chike and that girl, Amora, at Oriental Hotel. They were signing a deal with a foreign investor, the same project you designed." Ngozi's heart pounded. "He's using my designs?" "Yes," Amoka replied. "And he's introducing her as his business partner now." Ngozi clenched her fist. Her late mother's words came rushing back, "What's hidden in the dark will one day come to light." She packed her bags that night. Obi, she told her brother, I'm going back to Lagos. I have unfinished business. He grabbed her hand. Be careful, sister. Don't let anger destroy you. Ngozi managed a faint smile. Anger won't destroy me, Obi. It will rebuild me. When she arrived in Lagos 2 days later, the city's energy hit her like a wave, the honking danfos, the smell of suya smoke, the chatter of traders calling out on Allen Avenue. But she was no longer the same woman who left weeks ago. Her home was emptier now, stripped of life, stripped of love. Even the photos on the wall seemed to mock her. As she entered the bedroom, she noticed something strange. The wardrobe was open, and several of Chike's files were missing. But one brown envelope had fallen under the bed. She pulled it out and saw Project Eden, land acquisition documents written on the front. Her pulse quickened. She opened it, and inside was a photocopy of an old deed, stamped in 1999, bearing her late father's name as the original owner. Ngozi gasped. Her family's land, the one she sold to fund Chike's dream, had been stolen from them by his father all those years ago, and now Chike was using that same land in his new project. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a cycle. A generational sin. Later that night, she visited Chief Duru, a family friend who was once her father's lawyer. He was old now, his hair white as cotton, but his mind was sharp. After showing him the documents, he nodded grimly. I remember this land, my daughter. Your mother was right. It was taken under false pretenses by Ngozi Nwosu, Chike's father. We tried to fight, but your mother didn't have the money then. Ngozi's hands shook. So it's true. Yes. And now his son is using it for profit. History has a way of repeating itself. Ngozi leaned forward, her eyes cold with resolve. Then I'll make sure it doesn't repeat again. Chief Duru looked uneasy. Ngozi, revenge can burn even the innocent. Think before you strike. She rose to her feet. I'm done thinking, Chief. It's time they feel what we felt. The next day, Ngozi arrived unannounced at Chike's new company office, Nwosu Engineering Limited. The receptionist froze when she saw her. Madam Ngozi, she stammered, Sir said. I don't care what he said, Ngozi interrupted, striding past her. Tell him his past just walked through the door. When Chike saw her, his smile vanished. Amora stood beside him, her expression smug. Ngozi, Chike began, I told you. She slammed the folder onto his desk. Tell your business partner what your family did 25 years ago. Tell her this project is built on stolen land, on my father's blood. Amora blinked, confused. What is she talking about? Ngozi locked eyes with Chike. Ask him. Chike's jaw tightened. Ngozi, don't cause a scene here. Oh, the scene has only begun, she said, her voice low but shaking with fury. I buried my mother 2 days ago because of you. Now, I'm coming for everything you built on her pain. Cliffhanger, a security guard enters with a brown envelope addressed to Mrs. Ngozi Nwosu. Inside is a court summons. Chike is suing her for property theft. The courtroom was packed. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered as Ngozi Nwosu sat alone at the defendant's table, her face combed, her heart pounding. Her once loving husband now sat across from her, flanked by lawyers and Amora, dressed elegantly in a white suit that screamed confidence. This was not a divorce hearing, it was war. Chike had accused Ngozi of illegally transferring company funds and claiming ownership of property she never owned. It was a calculated attack meant to destroy her publicly, and it worked. The story had already gone viral on social media. Wife of business tycoon faces fraud charges. Domestic betrayal, husband sues ex-wife over property theft. The whispers in the courtroom grew louder. As the judge entered, everyone stood. Ngozi's eyes flickered toward Chike. He looked smug, like a man who thought he had already won. But deep down, she knew something he didn't. She had the truth. Mrs. Ngozi Nwosu, the judge began, you stand accused of unlawfully accessing corporate funds and falsifying ownership documents. How do you plead? Ngozi stood slowly. Not guilty, my lord. Her lawyer, a young but sharp woman named Barrister Tolu Adebayo, stepped forward. My client was a co-founder of Nwosu Engineering Limited. She invested her inheritance, sold family land, and managed finances for years. There is proof. Chike's lawyer smirked. And yet she has no written partnership agreement. No signatures. Nothing but stories. Ngozi's hands tightened into fists. Tolu whispered to her, stay calm. We'll get him where it hurts. Then, the prosecution produced something unexpected, video footage. On the screen, Ngozi appeared counting bundles of cash and placing them into a brown envelope. This, the prosecutor declared, shows Mrs. Nwosu removing company funds without authorization. Gasps filled the room. Ngozi's heart dropped. She remembered that day, it was for paying laborers who hadn't received their wages for weeks because Chike had traveled. She wasn't stealing, she was helping. But in that moment, nobody cared about context. After court adjourned, the crowd swarmed her outside. Microphones were shoved into her face. Mrs. Nwosu, did you really steal from your husband's company? Are you jealous of his new partner? Is this revenge for his infidelity? Ngozi pushed through them, tears welling up but refusing to fall. Lagos sun burned hot on her skin, but the shame burned hotter. She reached her car, trembling as she gripped the steering wheel. You wanted to humiliate me, Chike, she whispered. But you've just given me a reason to fight harder. That evening, she sat in her empty living room, scrolling through her phone, watching her own name trend online. Her mother's diary lay open beside her. The same diary that had revealed the family's buried secrets. One line stood out now. The thief's son will try to silence the truth, but the truth has a louder voice. As she read, a message popped up on her screen, an unknown number. You don't know me, but I work for Chike. I know what he's hiding. Meet me tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the Old Eco Bridge Cafe. Come alone. Her heart skipped. Could it be a trap? But something in her gut told her it wasn't. The next evening, she arrived at the cafe, a quiet, dimly lit place with peeling walls and the faint sound of high-life music playing from a corner radio. A man in his late 30s sat at the back table, face half hidden under a baseball cap. You're Ngozi, he said quietly when she approached. And you are? Name's Emeka. I used to be Chike's accountant before he fired me last year. He didn't tell you why, did he? Ngozi shook her head slowly. No. Emeka leaned in. He accused me of mismanagement. But the truth is, I discovered he's been laundering money through fake contracts. That video he used against you. He edited it. The full footage shows you paying staff from your own purse, not company funds. Ngozi gasped. You're sure? Emeka nodded. I have copies of the real files, but I can't release them without protection. He's dangerous, madam. He'll do anything to protect his reputation. Ngozi's hands trembled. If you help me clear my name, I'll protect you. I'll expose everything. Emeka sighed. Then we'll need to move carefully. He's planning to sell Project Eden, the land your family originally owned, to foreign investors within the month. Once he does, the evidence disappears. Ngozi's jaw tightened. Then we'll stop him before that happens. The next morning, a video leaked online, not from Ngozi, but from someone inside Chike's company. It showed Chike screaming at staff, bragging about burying that village woman once and for all. Social media exploded. The tides began to turn. People started asking questions. Who was lying? Who really betrayed whom? Amora, feeling the pressure, stormed into Chike's office. Why didn't you tell me the land had a history? People are digging into your father's past. Chike slammed his hand on the desk. Don't question me, Amora. You wouldn't have a job if not for me. Her eyes filled with tears. You promised me I'd be more than just your side piece. Promises change, he snapped. Amora froze. In that instant, she realized what Ngozi had already learned: Chike's loyalty was a weapon, not a bond. That night, Emeka sent Ngozi another message. Meet me tomorrow at the marina. I have something that can destroy him completely. Ngozi replied immediately. What is it? Proof of everything. But come alone. If he finds out, I'm dead. She swallowed hard. I'll be there. As she turned off her phone, lightning flashed outside. The storm was coming, both in the sky and in her life. Cliffhanger. At dawn, Emeka's body is found floating by the marina, with Ngozi's name written on a piece of paper in his hand. The sirens wailed across the marina as dawn broke. Police officers cordoned off the area while fishermen whispered and pointed at the lifeless body pulled from the murky water. The name, Ngozi Nwosu, scrawled on a crumpled note in the dead man's hand, spread through the crowd like wildfire. By the time Ngozi woke up that morning, her phone was already buzzing non-stop. First her lawyer called, then her brother, then the police. Mrs. Nwosu, the officer's voice on the line was clipped and official. We need you to come in for questioning. A man named Emeka Obi was found dead. Your name was discovered on him. Ngozi's blood ran cold. What? No, that's impossible. He was supposed to meet me. Then you need to explain that in person. By noon, she was sitting in the interrogation room at the Lagos State Police Command, the hum of the ceiling fan filling the silence. Across from her sat Inspector Sola, a man with tired eyes and an air of quiet suspicion. He tapped his pen on a notepad. You said the deceased contacted you last night. Yes, Ngozi replied, her voice trembling. He told me he had evidence against my husband, Chike Nwosu. And you were supposed to meet him. Yes. But I never went. I was home. Inspector Sola leaned back. Anyone who can confirm that? Ngozi hesitated. No. I live alone. He sighed. Ma'am, I'm not saying you're guilty. But you have motive. You're in a legal battle with your husband, and now a man connected to his company turns up dead, with your name on him. Ngozi felt the walls closing in. I didn't kill him, she whispered. Chike did. Or someone working for him. Then prove it, Sola said quietly. Because right now, the evidence is against you. After hours of questioning, she was released on bail, thanks to her lawyer, Barrister Tolu. Outside, the flashing cameras returned like vultures. Mrs. Nwosu, how do you respond to the murder accusation? Did you silence a whistleblower? Are you taking revenge for your husband's infidelity? She pushed through them, her face pale and distant. That night, alone in her car, she screamed, a raw, guttural sound that tore through her chest. You did this, Chike. You took everything from me. Her phone buzzed again, an anonymous text message. Stop digging or you'll end up like him. She froze. The number was untraceable. Ngozi exhaled shakily. So it's what you want, she whispered. Then what you'll get. The next day, Tolu came to her apartment, holding a newspaper. Ngozi, things are getting bad. Look at this. The headline read. Businessman's estranged wife wanted for questioning in whistleblower death. Ngozi's photo was plastered across the page, the image of a broken woman. They're destroying your name, Tolu said. We need a strategy. I think Chike has people inside the police feeding him updates. Ngozi nodded slowly. Then I'll hit him where he doesn't expect it, his pride. Tolu raised an eyebrow. Meaning? His company. His investors. He can manipulate the law, but not the people funding him. That evening, Ngozi created a new email account using an alias. She sent an anonymous message to Larsen and Company, the foreign investors backing Project Eden. The land your company intends to purchase is under legal dispute. It was stolen decades ago. Attached are preliminary documents. Verify before proceeding. She attached the photocopied deeds from her father's file. Within 24 hours, the investors responded. They had suspended the deal pending verification. Chike's empire began to tremble. At his office, Chike erupted in rage. "Who the hell sent that?" he shouted, throwing his phone against the wall. Amara flinched. "Maybe one of your enemies, or Ngozi." Chike paced the room. "She can't prove anything. But she's desperate enough to destroy us both." Amara folded her arms. "You said you handled it." "I did," he snapped. "Emeka's gone, isn't he?" Her eyes narrowed. "Gone? You mean dead?" Chike turned toward her, his expression cold. "Don't start, Amara. You knew what you signed up for." Her voice trembled. "You killed him, didn't you?" Chike stepped closer. "If you ever repeat that, I'll make you disappear too." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she backed away. "You're a monster." He smirked. "No, darling. I'm a survivor." But as soon as he left, Amara sat trembling at her desk, her mind spinning. If Ngozi was the only person brave enough to stand against him, maybe she wasn't the enemy after all. Meanwhile, Ngozi sat in her dark apartment, staring at her mother's photo. "Mama," she whispered, "they tried to silence the truth again. But I'll finish what you started." Her phone beeped, a voice note from an unknown number. She pressed play. Chike's voice crackled through the speaker. "She won't be a problem anymore. I've made sure of that. If the police can't handle her, we'll find another way." Ngozi's eyes widened. It was a recording, proof. She covered her mouth in shock. "How did I get this?" Then another message followed. "If you want to know who really killed Emeka, come to the abandoned warehouse on Freedom Road tomorrow night. Don't come alone." Ngozi's heart pounded. Was it a setup or salvation? Either way, she knew she had to go. Because in this war, fear was a luxury she could no longer afford. Adi. As Ngozi drives toward Freedom Road the next night, a black SUV begins following her, and a gun barrel glints from the passenger window. Rain beat against the windshield as Ngozi's car sped down Freedom Road, the streetlights flickering through the storm. Her grip tightened on the steering wheel. The anonymous voice note still echoed in her head. "If you want to know who killed Emeka, come to the warehouse on Freedom Road. Don't come alone." But she was alone. And she could feel it, the danger closing in. In her rearview mirror, headlights glared. A black SUV followed at high speed, weaving through puddles, inching closer. Her heart slammed in her chest. "No," she whispered, pressing harder on the accelerator. The SUV accelerated too. Then, bang! A shot rang out. Her back window shattered. Ngozi screamed and swerved. Glass rained across her seat as the car fishtailed, nearly colliding with a concrete divider. She veered right, plunging down a narrow dirt path that led toward the old industrial area by the waterfront. The SUV followed. Another shot cracked through the night. The bullet grazed her side mirror. "God, please," she gasped, gripping the wheel. Finally, she spotted the rusted warehouse ahead, the one from the message. She slammed the brakes, jumped out, and ran inside as thunder shook the sky. The warehouse was dark, empty except for the echoes of dripping rainwater and the distant hum of the city. Ngozi crouched behind a stack of crates, clutching her phone, ready to call for help. Then, footsteps. She froze. A shadow moved at the far end of the room. Ngozi, a voice whispered. She turned sharply, raising her phone like a weapon. Who's there? From the darkness, a woman stepped into view, drenched, trembling, her mascara streaked. It was Amara. Ngozi's jaw dropped. You. What are you doing here? Amara raised her hands. I had no choice. Chike found out I knew about Emeka. He sent men after me too. Ngozi blinked. You expect me to believe that? I brought proof, Amara said, pulling a flash drive from her purse. All his secret accounts, money transfers, everything. But we need to get out of here. They are coming. Ngozi hesitated. The sound of tires screeching outside decided for her. Move, she shouted. The two women ran through a side door just as the warehouse door burst open. Men in dark jackets poured in, flashlights cutting through the shadows. Spread out. Find them, one barked. Ngozi and Amara sprinted through the rain-soaked alley, their breaths ragged. Behind them, voices shouted and gunshots cracked. They darted into an abandoned container yard, hiding between rusting steel boxes. Ngozi's hands shook as she whispered, If you're lying, Amara, I swear. I'm not, Amara gasped. He killed Emeka because Emeka found out about his offshore accounts. I have the emails. I just want to survive. Ngozi studied her face. She was terrified, desperate. It wasn't the face of a liar. Fine, Ngozi said. Then we do this together. Hours later, the two women sat in a safe house near Oja, the air thick with tension. Ngozi cleaned a small cut on her arm while Amara plugged in a laptop. When the files opened, Ngozi's eyes widened. Dozens of offshore transfers. Fake contracts. Political kickbacks. And one document labeled, Land Deal, 1999. She clicked it open. There it was, her father's stolen land title, the same one Mama Ezen had written about in her diary. But beneath the scanned document was a note in Chike's handwriting. Property acquisition completed. Source secured. Keep details buried. Ngozi's hand trembled. So it's true. His father stole the land, and he used it to build his empire. Amara nodded. He told me once that riches are built on graves. I thought he was being poetic. Now I know he meant it literally. Ngozi's heart hardened. Then we'll bury him in the truth. The next morning, Ngozi met with Barrister Tolu again. She handed her the flash drive. This is everything. Money laundering, murder, fraud, even the land theft. It's enough to bury him. Tolu looked at her in shock. Ngozi, this could destroy him completely, but it could also expose you. If the media learns you were at that warehouse, they'll link you to Emeka's death. Ngozi sighed. Then we release it carefully. Leak the documents, not the names. Tolu nodded. I know a journalist who might help, Kemi Odebanjo from Channels News. She hates corruption more than anything. Ngozi smiled faintly. Good. Tell her to prepare for a storm. Meanwhile, Chike sat in his penthouse, his phone buzzing non-stop. News headlines were spreading again. Leaked files suggest massive fraud at Nwosu Engineering. Project Eden linked to decades-old land scandal. He threw his glass against the wall, shattering it. Who did this? He roared. His assistant trembled. Sir, it's everywhere. Even the investors have pulled out. The EFCC is investigating. Chike's face twisted in fury. Find that woman. I don't care what it takes. As the assistant hurried out, Chike sat back, breathing hard. His empire was crumbling. But then, his eyes darkened with resolve. If she wants war, he murmured, then I'll give her war. That night, Ngozi received a call from an unknown number. Hello, she answered cautiously. A distorted voice replied, You think you've won? You have no idea what you've started. Before she could respond, the line went dead. Ngozi stared into the darkness, fear creeping up her spine. She turned to Amora. He knows we are alive. Amora swallowed. Then we have to disappear for a while. Ngozi nodded. Not yet. First, I want him to see everything he's built, burn. She looked out the window toward the skyline of Lagos, her reflection merging with the distant lights. The same city that once broke her heart would now witness her revenge. The next morning, Ngozi wakes to a news alert: her home has been burned down overnight, and her brother Obinna is missing. Ngozi's phone buzzed violently on the table. It was barely dawn. Her eyes were heavy from a sleepless night of scanning documents and listening for footsteps outside. When she finally answered, the trembling voice of her neighbor made her heart stop. Ngozi, your house, it's gone. There was a fire. I saw the flames from across the street. She bolted upright. What? What do you mean gone? Everything burned, my sister. And your brother? Obinna, he hasn't been found. The phone slipped from her hand. For a moment, the world went silent. By the time Ngozi reached the estate, smoke still curled into the pale morning sky. The house stood in ruins, blackened walls, charred wood, and ashes floating like ghosts. Police tape fluttered in the breeze. Neighbors whispered from afar, their faces a mixture of pity and fear. Ngozi stumbled forward, her heart pounding in her chest. Obinna! Obinna! A fireman held her back. Madam, please. It's too dangerous. She shook him off. That's my brother. Let me through. Then, as if in answer, a stretcher emerged from the debris, covered with a white sheet. Her knees buckled. The sound that escaped her throat was not human, it was grief, raw and animal, echoing through the street. Amora caught her before she fell. Ngozi. I'm so sorry. Ngozi clutched her chest, trembling. He was only 23. He didn't deserve this. The officer approached quietly. Madam, from the early investigation, this doesn't look like an accident. There were traces of accelerant near the kitchen. We'll need you to come to the station later. Ngozi's eyes hardened. You don't need to look far. I know who did this. By afternoon, news of the tragedy flooded social media. Breaking: Lagos businessman's home destroyed in mysterious fire. Nwosu family under siege amid fraud investigation. Underneath, comments exploded. God is punishing them. That's what happens when you cheat and lie. Poor Ngozi. She's been through too much. Chike sat in his office, watching it unfold on his tablet. A cold smile spread across his face. Let her feel what loss tastes like, he murmured. Let her break. But deep inside, a shadow of fear stirred. He knew Ngozi wasn't one to crumble quietly. That evening, Ngozi and Amora sat at a small guest house in Yoba. The air was heavy with silence. Ngozi stared blankly at the window, her voice hollow. He killed my brother, Amora. My only brother. Amora's eyes filled with tears. Ngozi, I didn't know he'd go this far. I thought he just wanted to scare you. Ngozi turned sharply. Scare me? He burned my home. He murdered my blood. There's no forgiveness left in me. She stood, pacing. He took everything. But now, I'll take his name, his money, and his peace. Amora swallowed hard. What will you do? Ngozi's gaze burned like fire. I'll make the world see him for what he truly is. 2 days later, Ngozi met with Kemi Odebanjo, the investigative journalist Barrister Tolu had mentioned. They sat in a discreet cafe in Suralere, surrounded by the murmur of midday traffic. Kemi leaned forward, voice low. You're sure about this? Once I publish this, there's no going back. Chike will come after you. Ngozi nodded slowly. He already has. I've got nothing left to lose. Kemi studied her face, then inserted the flash drive. Her eyes widened as she scrolled through the files: fraudulent deals, stolen land titles, evidence of hush payments. This is massive, she whispered. If this goes public, half the city's elite could fall with him. Good, Ngozi said coldly. Let them fall. 3 days later, the expose hit every major news outlet. Chike Nwosu and the Empire of Lies, inside the scandal of power, corruption, and blood. Images of bank documents, luxury properties, and secret accounts flooded television screens. Protests erupted at Nwosu Engineering's headquarters. The EFCC announced an immediate probe. Investors froze assets. Clients withdrew. Chike's world was collapsing in real time. He stood in front of his penthouse window, eyes dark, watching his empire burn. His phone buzzed. It was a video message. He opened it. Ngozi appeared on screen, her voice calm, cold, deadly. You took my brother, my peace, and my home. Now I'm taking your legacy. The truth will bury you, Chike. Just like you buried Mama Ezin's memory. The video ended. Chike's hand trembled with rage. He held the phone against the wall. Then he turned to his assistant. Call Depo. Tell him to find her. Tonight. That night, as Ngozi and Amora packed their things to relocate once again, headlights flashed through the window. Ngozi froze. That's not Kemi's car. A moment later, heavy boots stomped up the stairs. Get the files. Ngozi hissed. Before Amora could react, the door burst open. 3 men stormed in, one grabbed Amora, another lunged at Ngozi. She fought back, shoving one into a chair, but he punched her hard across the jaw. She stumbled, dizzy, vision blurring. Boss says you should have stayed quiet, one sneered, raising a gun. Suddenly, boom. The front window shattered. A gunshot came from outside. The men dove for cover. Blue lights flooded the room, police sirens wailing. Drop your weapons. This is the police. Ngozi blinked through the haze, watching as officers stormed in and cuffed the attackers. A familiar voice shouted, Ngozi. Are you all right? It was Barrister Tolu, flanked by officers. Ngozi sank to the floor, trembling. How did you? Tolu crouched beside her. We traced one of Chike's calls. He was planning something tonight. You're lucky we got here first. Ngozi's face hardened. I'm done running. It's time he faces me in court. The next morning, Chike is arrested live on television, but as police lead him away, he smirks at the camera and says, "This isn't over, Ngozi. You'll regret this." The Lagos High Court was packed that morning. Reporters lined the corridors, their microphones flashing like spears. The case of the state versus Chike Nwosu had become a national spectacle, a story of corruption, murder, and revenge. Ngozi sat quietly beside Barrister Tolu, her face veiled by dark glasses. The cameras outside screamed her name, but she didn't flinch. This was her moment, the day Chike would finally face justice. Inside, the air was electric. Chike entered the courtroom in a crisp white kaftan, escorted by officers. But instead of shame, he wore a calm, confident smile, the kind that made Ngozi's stomach twist with dread. He turned, caught her gaze, and mouthed silently. You started this. The prosecutor rose first, laying out the evidence: forged land deeds, offshore accounts, and the fire that killed Obinna. The courtroom gasped as pictures of burnt remains appeared on the projector. Ngozi's fist clenched. Her eyes burned with tears. The prosecutor continued, My lord, we have strong evidence that the defendant, Mr. Nwosu, orchestrated multiple crimes of fraud and arson to conceal his corruption. We will prove that his greed destroyed lives, including that of the plaintiff's brother. Applause erupted briefly before the judge silenced the court. Then, it was the defense's turn. Chike's lawyer, a tall man with a calm, dangerous voice, stood. My lord, this entire trial is built on emotional manipulation and jealousy. What we have here is not justice, it's vengeance. He walked toward Ngozi's table, holding up a stack of papers. Let's talk about the supposed victim. Ngozi frowned. What is this? She whispered to Tolu. The lawyer continued, ladies and gentlemen, the woman accusing my client of corruption conveniently forgot to mention her own crimes. I present to the court financial records showing Mrs. Ngozi Nwosu as a silent partner in one of the shell companies under investigation. Gasps filled the room. Cameras clicked wildly. Ngozi shut up. That's a lie. The lawyer smiled coldly. Oh. You received 12 million Nigerian nairas from one of those accounts in 2018. Care to explain? Ngozi's face paled. That was money he said was for our family project. He told me it was an inheritance transfer. Chike sat there, feigning sorrow. I trusted you, Ngozi. Even after all we've been through. The crowd murmured. Tolu stood quickly. Objection, my lord. This is character assassination. The funds were clearly documented as part of spousal accounts. But the damage was done. The court now saw Ngozi not as a grieving sister, but as a possible accomplice. After the hearing, chaos erupted outside. News headlines screamed. Ngozi Nwosu implicated in husband's fraud. From victim to villain. New twist in Nwosu scandal. Social media was ruthless. So she was part of it all along. Typical, when the wife cries betrayal, there's always more to the story. Ngozi sat in her car, shaking. The flashes from journalists blinded her as she whispered, he's turning the world against me. Tolu gripped her hand. Listen to me, Ngozi. This is a strategy. He's trying to destroy your credibility before sentencing. We'll counter it. Ngozi shook her head. He's winning the sympathy war. They're all believing him. Amora, who had sat through the trial in silence, suddenly spoke. Then it's time to show them the truth, all of it. Even the part you've been hiding. Ngozi's eyes widened. What are you talking about? Amora hesitated, then said quietly, you never told the court what really happened the night Emeka died. Ngozi froze. Don't. Amora stepped closer. Ngozi, the truth will set you free, but it'll destroy him too. Tolu looked between them. What is she talking about? Ngozi took a deep breath, her voice trembling. That night, I went to Chike's office after he left. I found Emeka already bleeding on the floor. He whispered something before he died, something I buried all these years. Tolu leaned in. What did he say? Ngozi's eyes glistened. He said, he's not your husband, Ngozi. He's your brother. The room fell silent. Amara gasped. What? Ngozi nodded, tears streaming down her face. Mama Ezin's old letters, I didn't understand them at first. Chike's father, and my mother, they had an affair long ago. Chike and I share the same blood. The words hung heavy in the air. Tolu whispered, stunned, so your marriage was incestuous. Ngozi buried her face in her hands. I didn't know. Not until after Emeka's death. And I couldn't live with it. That's why I left him, not just because of the cheating. Amora's voice trembled. If this gets out, Ngozi, it'll ruin both of you. Ngozi looked up slowly, her eyes fierce. Maybe it should. Maybe the truth should burn everything he built, including me. 2 days later, the court reconvened. Ngozi took the stand. The audience buzzed with curiosity. The prosecutor whispered, are you sure you want to do this? Ngozi nodded. It's time. She took a deep breath and began, My lord, what I'm about to say is painful. But I owe it to my brother, to the truth, and to every woman who's ever been silenced by fear. Her voice shook as she told everything, the affair between their parents, the forged land title, the lies that bound her to Chike, and the night she discovered the truth. Gasps filled the courtroom. Reporters scrambled to record every word. When she finished, the room was dead silent, until the judge spoke. This case just took a very dark turn. Chike's face was pale, for once stripped of his arrogance. But then, slowly, a smile crept across his lips. You think this would destroy me? You've only proven how broken you are, Ngozi. He turned to the cameras and said clearly. This woman married her own blood, and now she wants to lecture me on morality. The courtroom erupted into chaos. Ngozi's tears blurred her vision as flashbulbs exploded around her. Outside the courthouse, the crowd was divided. Some shouted in sympathy, others hurled insults. Tolu shielded her as reporters screamed questions. Ngozi, is it true you married your brother? Was the marriage legal? Do you still love him? Ngozi kept walking, silent, numb. Amora whispered, They'll crucify you for this. Ngozi stopped, her jaw tightening. Then let them. I've been living in ashes for too long. Now, I'll make sure he burns with me. That night, a video surfaces online, a secret recording of Ngozi visiting Emeka's corpse years ago, whispering words that could either prove her innocence or implicate her in his death. The morning after Ngozi's testimony, Lagos woke up buzzing. Every radio station, TV channel, and gossip blog screamed the same headline. Ngozi Nwosu confesses to marrying her half-brother. Shock in court as hidden family secret exposes years of domestic betrayal. Video clips of her crying on the stand spread like wildfire. Meme pages mocked her. Political talk shows debated her moral character. Outside her hotel, reporters swarmed like vultures. Mrs. Nwosu, were you aware of the incest? Do you have proof your husband orchestrated the fire? Are you mentally stable? Ngozi could barely breathe. Cameras flashed in her face as she pushed through the crowd, Tolu and Amora shielding her. When they finally reached the car, she broke down. They are killing me, Tolu. They don't care about the truth, they just want blood. Tolu exhaled heavily. It's not over yet. But right now, we need to disappear again. The court of public opinion is cruel. Amora nodded, glancing nervously through the window. They are watching everything, social media, phone lines. Chike still has people on the inside. Ngozi's voice was barely a whisper. He wants me destroyed, even if he goes down too. 2 days later, the video surfaced. It was blurry, grainy, footage from a morgue years ago. Ngozi knelt beside Emeka's body, sobbing, whispering something the microphones barely caught. But the captions twisted her words. I'm sorry. I had to do it. The video went viral instantly. Within hours, hashtags trended. Hashtag justice for Emeka. Hashtag Ngozi the killer. Hashtag marriage of sin. Television anchors debated it like sport. Did she confess to murder? Or was it grief misinterpreted? Ngozi stared at the screen in disbelief. That's not what I said. I said, I'm sorry I brought you into this. They cut it. Amora slammed her fist on the table. Chike edited it. He's manipulating the media. Tolu clenched her jaw. We'll sue the broadcasters. But once something like this hits the internet, it's impossible to erase. Ngozi's voice cracked. Then maybe I shouldn't hide anymore. Let them see the real me, not the monster he's painted. Amora looked at her carefully. You're planning something. Ngozi nodded. If I'm going down, I'll drag him with me. But I need proof, something even he can't twist. That evening, while scrolling through endless hate comments, Ngozi's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. If you want the truth about Emeka's death, meet me at Elegushi Beach. 9 p.m. Come alone. Her heart raced. Another trap. Tolu frowned. Could be. Or it could be someone inside his circle. Do you want me to call security? No, Ngozi said firmly. If there's a chance to clear my name, I'll take it. The night air at Elegushi was thick with salt and danger. Waves crashed softly under the glow of streetlights as she approached the meeting point, a lonely bench near the shoreline. A man in a grey hoodie waited, face shadowed. Ngozi Nwosu, he said quietly. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Who are you? He pulled down his hood. My name is Femi Olaranfimi. I used to work for Chike. I was his accountant, before he fired me and framed me for theft. Ngozi's pulse quickened. Why are you here? Femi handed her a small flash drive. That video they leaked, I have the original. And it's not what they want people to see. Ngozi took the drive, trembling. You have proof? He nodded. Yes. And more. I recorded meetings, conversations between Chike and his men. He ordered the fire that killed your brother. I have the voice recording. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. Why are you helping me? Femi sighed, staring out at the waves. Because when a man like that destroys everyone around him, eventually he destroys himself too. I want to see him fall. She gripped the drive tightly. You just gave me the weapon I needed. Back at the safe house, Ngozi plugged in the flash drive. The video played clearly, the unedited mock footage. She watched herself sobbing beside Emeka's body, whispering, I'm sorry, my brother. I brought this curse into our lives. I should have told the truth earlier. Her breath caught. They caught the part where I called him brother. That was the proof of innocence all along. Then she opened the second file, an audio clip. Chike's voice, make sure the fire looks like an accident. And take out the boy. I don't want him running his mouth. Other man, yes sir. What about the wife? Chike, let her suffer. Pain is better than death. The room went silent. Amara gasped. Oh my God. Tolu stood up, eyes wide. This is enough to bury him completely, legally, publicly, morally. He can't talk his way out of this. Ngozi's eyes hardened. Then tomorrow, we finish this. No more hiding. The next morning, Channels TV aired an emergency broadcast titled Exclusive Evidence in the Nwosu Scandal. Ngozi sat on live television, calm and composed, while Kemi Odebanjo played the recordings. The nation listened as Chike's voice ordered his men to commit arson and murder. The truth shook Nigeria. Public opinion flipped overnight. #Justice for Ngozi replaced the old hashtags. Talk shows apologized for judging too soon. The EFCC announced a fresh warrant, this time, for Chike's attempted murder and obstruction of justice. From his hiding place, Chike watched the broadcast, veins bulging in fury. He smashed his glass against the wall. So this is how she wants to play it. Fine. He grabbed his phone, dialing furiously. Tell the driver to get the jet ready. If I can't destroy her here, I'll finish this somewhere she won't see it coming. As the broadcast ended, Ngozi stepped out of the studio to a crowd cheering her name. But in the distance, a black SUV lingered, the same kind that chased her months ago. She froze. Amora whispered, Ngozi, that car's been following us since we left the hotel. Ngozi took a slow breath. Then it's not over, yet. The SUV's door opens, and a figure steps out wearing a police uniform, holding a warrant. Ngozi Nwosu, you're under arrest for the murder of Emeka Nwosu. The camera flashes were blinding as Ngozi was handcuffed. Reporters shouted questions, hungry for a new twist. Ngozi, are you back under investigation? Who's behind this new charge? Is it true you confessed again off camera? Ngozi kept her head high, silent. Inside, her pulse raced. At the police station, she was led into an interrogation room, cold, sterile, painted the same dull grey she remembered from years ago when Emeka first went missing. Detective Hossan entered with a stern look. Madam Nwosu, you're being charged with conspiracy to murder Emeka Nwosu, based on new forensic evidence. Ngozi frowned. That's impossible. You have the audio of Chike ordering it. He sighed. I heard it too. But this came from your friend, Miss Amora Udo. Her breath stopped. Amora. He nodded. She submitted a sworn statement, says you planned everything to frame Chike after discovering your incestuous marriage. Says the recordings were fabricated. Ngozi's words spun. She wouldn't. But even as she said it, the door opened, and there she was. Amora. Calm, expressionless, avoiding Ngozi's eyes. Why? Ngozi whispered. After everything. Amora's voice trembled slightly. I didn't want to. But he offered me something I couldn't refuse, protection. They said they'd ruin my family if I didn't cooperate. Ngozi's face hardened. So you sold me out? Tears welled in Amora's eyes. I didn't know they'd actually arrest you. I thought they just wanted to scare you into silence. Detective Hossan interrupted, save that for court. Mrs. Nwosu, you'll be remanded until trial. That night, in her court cell, Ngozi stared at the cracked ceiling. Everything she'd fought for, gone again. Her son, now overseas, had stopped answering her calls. The public sympathy had turned into confusion. But deep inside, a quiet flame refused to die. This isn't the end, she whispered. He wants me silenced because I'm close to something bigger. Something that even that recording didn't reveal. The trial reopened in the High Court of Lagos 2 weeks later. Crowds filled every seat. Bloggers live-streamed. Hashtags revived. When Ngozi was brought in, she looked thinner, her once sparkling eyes dim but determined. The prosecution began with a bombshell, a new voice recording allegedly showing Ngozi giving orders to set the fire. It sounded real. Too real. Make sure he doesn't survive, the voice said. I want him gone before he talks. The courtroom gasped. Ngozi stood up instantly. That's not me. That's a deepfake AI generated. But the judge banged his gavel. Order. Order in court. Tolu, her lawyer, rose. Your Honor, we have reason to believe the audio was fabricated using AI voice cloning. The defense will present expert analysis proving it. But before the motion could proceed, a man entered quietly through the back door, Femi Olaranfimi. He held a thick folder in his hands. Your Honor, he called out. I have additional evidence, files from Chike's offshore accounts, detailing payments made to witnesses and to the forensics team. The judge frowned. Who authorized this? Tolu replied, he's a former insider, my lord. Let him speak. Femi approached the stand, opening the folder. This document shows a $50,000 transfer to Ms. Amora Udo 3 days before her testimony, from a Dubai-based account belonging to CN Holdings. Gasps filled the courtroom. The judge turned sharply. Ms. Udo, is this true? Amora broke down instantly. Yes, it's true. He threatened my family. He said if I didn't testify, he'd make my brother disappear. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears of anger and pity. Amora sobbed uncontrollably. He called me the night before the hearing. He said Emeka's death wasn't an accident. That it was part of a bigger plan. The judge leaned forward. What plan? Amora hesitated. He wanted to cover up money laundering through the company. Emeka found out and threatened to expose him. That's why Chak burned down the house. The courtroom erupted. Reporters typed furiously. The judge struck his gavel. Silence. He turned to Ngozi. Mrs. Nwosu, you are hereby cleared of all charges pending further investigation into Mr. Chak Nwosu. Tolu exhaled in relief. Ngozi closed her eyes, whispering a prayer of gratitude. But just as the bailiffs escorted her out, her phone, returned to her that morning, buzzed with a message. She glanced down. From unknown number. You may have won in court. But you can't hide from what comes next. See. Her hand trembled. She looked up through the courtroom window, and outside, across the street, stood Chak himself, in a black coat, watching her with cold, lifeless eyes. Then he turned and disappeared into a waiting car. That night, Ngozi met with Tolu and Femi at a safe house once again. He's running, Femi said. Interpol is already on alert. But he's too connected, he could disappear forever. Ngozi's jaw tightened. No. He won't. Not until he faces the same humiliation he gave me. Tolu looked uneasy. What are you planning? Ngozi's lips curved into a faint, bitter smile. He built his empire on secrets. Tomorrow, we burn them all. A sudden explosion rocks the safe house, shattering the windows and throwing Ngozi to the ground. Through the smoke, a familiar voice echoes, "You should have stayed buried with your brother." Fade to black. The explosion tore through the quiet Lagos night. Glass shattered, walls cracked, and Ngozi was thrown against the concrete floor. Smoke filled her lungs as fire licked the curtains. Tolu, she coughed, crawling toward the hallway. Femi. A figure stumbled out of the haze, Femi, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. They're gone, he yelled. Tolu's alive but trapped in the next room, go. Ngozi dragged herself to the door and kicked it open. The fire roared louder, orange tongues devouring everything. She spotted Tolu pinned under a fallen beam. Hold on. Ngozi screamed, pulling with all her strength. The beam barely moved. She gritted her teeth, tears stinging her eyes. You're not dying here, not because of him. Femi rushed in with a crowbar, prying it free. Together, they pulled Tolu out just as the ceiling gave way behind them. They stumbled into the street, coughing, as fire trucks blared in the distance. Ngozi looked back at the inferno, their safe house now gone. He found us, she said hoarsely. He's not done. Femi nodded grimly. No, but neither are we. The next morning, Lagos buzzed with news. Prominent businessman Chak Nwosu under manhunt following corruption scandal. TV stations replayed his photos. Anonymous sources leaked documents, bank transfers, and offshore accounts, the files Femi had duplicated before the explosion. Chak's empire was crumbling. But Ngozi knew it wouldn't end quietly. That evening, she got a call, an untraceable number. Meet me where it all began, Chak's voice said. Come alone. Her heart pounded. Where? The house in Enugu. You remember it, don't you? The one I burned down. The line went dead. Night fell over Enugu like a velvet shroud. The ruins of their old home stood against the moonlight, blackened walls, broken tiles, silent memories. Ngozi arrived in a black SUV. She stepped out slowly, her heels crunching over gravel. She carried nothing but her phone and a small flash drive, the last piece of evidence that could destroy him completely. From the shadows, Chak emerged. He looked older, rougher, his once polished suit replaced by a dark leather jacket. His eyes burned with that same arrogant calm that once melted her heart. You came, he said softly. I wasn't sure you would. Ngozi held his gaze. I had to end this. Chak chuckled. End. You think this is about endings? We are bound, Ngozi. By blood. By sin. By the curse your mother left behind. Don't you dare mention my mother, she snapped. You destroyed her name, and my life. He stepped closer. You destroyed yourself. You couldn't keep your brother satisfied, so you punished me for it. Ngozi's slap cracked across his face, sharp, echoing. Chike smacked through the sting. There she is. The woman I fell in love with, the fighter. You call this love, she hissed. You killed Emeka. You burned my home. You turned my life into ashes. And you, he whispered, turned mine into humiliation. For a moment, they stood in silence, two broken souls surrounded by ghosts. Then Ngozi slowly lifted the flash drive. This holds every document, every transaction, every secret. It's already backed up and scheduled for release in 1 hour unless I cancel it. His expression darkened. You wouldn't dare. Try me. He lunged. They struggled, the flash drive clattering to the ground. Ngozi fought fiercely, striking him across the face. He pinned her against a burnt wall, rage in his eyes. You think the world will believe you after everything, he growled. They'll always see you as the widow who lied. Ngozi gritted her teeth, forcing out the words, then let's burn together. She shoved him backward into the puddle of spilled gasoline she'd noticed earlier. His eyes widened just as she flicked the lighter she'd brought. A small flame flickered, then roared. The fire raced along the ground, climbing Chike's legs. He screamed, stumbling as the flames consumed the debris. Ngozi staggered backward, tears streaming, watching as the man who destroyed her life finally faced his own inferno. But she didn't smile. She didn't cheer. She only whispered, this isn't revenge. It's release. Then she turned and walked away, the burning house lighting up the night sky behind her. Weeks later, Ngozi sat quietly at her mother's grave in the village. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of wet earth and peace. Her mother's tombstone read, Mama Ngozi Nwosu, a woman of strength and silence. Ngozi knelt and placed fresh flowers. I should have brought you home sooner, Mama. Maybe I wouldn't have lost so much. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts, her son, Kin, standing behind her. Mom, are you finally coming back to Lagos? Ngozi looked at him, tall, gentle, his father's eyes but none of his cruelty. Yes, she said, smiling faintly. But not the same Lagos. This time, I'm building something new, for us, for women like me who forgot their worth. Ki nodded and hugged her. As they walked away, the camera panned up to the sky, sunlight breaking through the clouds, birds flying free. Ngozi's voice echoed softly over the scene. They left their aging mother in the village. They thought she was forgotten. But regret, it always finds its way home.